Hello everybody. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about participatory design, and we are going to be walking through a case study that is going to help us to exemplify how participatory design can be applied in health informatics. Then today objective is to discuss the relevance of participatory design in the development of health information systems. And just to refresh our memory, remember that participatory design is a user-centered design approach, and it offers solutions that are going to be really useful in designing health informatics tools. The participatory design basically seeks to design involving the users and involve the users in creation instead of designing for them. We don't make the decisions for them, we design with them. It requires active involvement of both the users, stakeholders, and they need to be involucrated in all the stages of the design. With participatory design, the participants are able to identify practical problems. It promotes participation of users in the design process of those technical solutions. We are going to see that is this, and we have, you have already studied, it's an iterative process. It has multiple ways of evaluating the process, and engage participants in storytelling and future planning and design. This is a complex process that it combines doing, talking, thinking, feeling, belonging. And the questions that we look into participatory design is: what is the problem? Why is this a problem? What could be resolved with the problem? And when we have a project in participatory design, then we have those need assessments. We generate some ideas. We prototype and test those ideas. We retest if needed. We evaluate the impact, and then we iterate the process. And when we are doing research, this is not new. This is something that has been since 1970s, and is in the domain of the action research. And basically, we analyze the effects of new technology on the workplaces, and created this understanding of collaborative research that basically involve the participants or the users. And remember that telling is one of those drivers for participation. The participants are given a chance to share their knowledge, and it can be done by interviews, or we can have different ways of facilitate participation and allow the users to express their ideas or experience. And we can create personas. Personas are representations of groups, and an effective design tool in the way that we can engage users in sensitive topics. Then now we project the needs in a character or a stereotypical representation of a group, and then the users from the experiencer's perspective can try to project there if without being involved directly there. The fieldwork involves researchers participating in everyday life activities of the participant in order to be able to identify the practice and their needs. This is something important. We cannot do participatory design from a desk or something like far away, but we need to really understand and be related with the community of the group that we are solving the problem. And literature studies are another way that we conduct to understand the needs of the participants, but that's a different perspective, and there could be some gaps there if we don't really involve them. But involving the students and validating the literature is the participatory component of that. Making is when we are prototyping, building elements. Then that's a way of engaging the participants, and that creates this sense of belonging. and or we can have creative workshops and brainstormings and other type of ideas where you involve the participants in the creation of the elements. Acting, it's another strategy that we have there in participatory. It's creating scenarios and allow the participants to explore new ideas, new designs, and how this is going to affect their practice, how is this going to affect the environment, the performance. And then there are different methods that we can use in this phase and to guarantee that the participants are going to be active. We can have user stories, for example, to help visualize a specific application of a proposed information technology solution, or users can imagine what the solutions could be and then play roles there. Then the activities related to a project, then we have fieldwork, literature review, development, testing, and always we are going to have the participants in all these activities. Challenges, this requires time. Sometimes the language and the culture are barriers amongst the participants because they are not uniform. Then that's something that we need to be mindful. And selecting participants to ensure that we have a good representation of the user group sometimes is really challenging, and be really able to empower the participants sometimes is one of those things difficult because people usually is accustomed to receive information but not be active in creating that. Then some applications of participatory design are designing small-scale health information systems. It could be a way to generate knowledge between users, stakeholders, and designer. We can design technical usable systems, and we, as a research tool, we can create community-based health services with participatory design because, hey, what are your needs? What are your barriers? What is the time that you are available? What is the location that is going to work for you? We can have a design. We can design patient-centered post-hospital transition intervention. Hey, how do you want to be called? At what time is the best time to call you? In the morning, midday, in the evening? You want to be contacted by phone, text messages? Questions like that are really important in that type of scenario. We can develop e-health applications and some assistive technologies, and you can imagine. Then basically the sky is the limit. As you see, we can go from small scale all the way to population health interventions. Then the case study that we are going to be reviewing today, it's about this paper that is applying a participatory design approach to define objectives and properties of data profiling tool for electronic health data. It's by Estiri, Lovins, Afzalan, and Stephens. It was published in 2016 in AMIA in the Summits of Translational Science, and you can find the link, the paper in that link. Then let's go through this study and see how the authors use participatory design to create a tool for electronic health data profiling. They start telling us something that most of us, we have been studying, and we know that there is an increased adoption of information technology in healthcare settings and in general in the world, but healthcare is adopting a lot of technologies. The Health Information Technology Economic Act in 2009 injected a lot of money and it created an accelerated adoption of electronic health record. And what happened that then there is a lot of electronic health data generated over the recent years, because before we have all that stored in paper and taken out of the paper required processes, but now we are capturing that data in electronic ways and in multiple scenarios. And that overflow of data is a big potential for secondary use and for translational research, because it has already a primary use that is for healthcare or billing or you name it. But now we have seen an opportunity of learning about that collection of data. And biomedical researchers are utilizing those new data tools as well to learn about this electronic health data that is being generated. And what challenges the authors identify and we know that are out there in the health informatics, that basically tools that were developed in the late 2000s and the early 2010s, they were not developed for the so-called big data. And we have had discussions previously about this, and just the way that you design a table, or how you name your variables, or what are your reference data, what is your model of reference. Those models that were not thought about big data, then the integration is challenging. Usually when you try to identify cohorts within electronic health data, it's a prolonged and costly process, and there is a lot of research there in profiling or phenotyping and how we can try to identify a cohort that is suitable for our studies. And definitely researchers need tools to acquire knowledge about data, how that data is qualified, and to understand if the data is usable or not, and is suited for them before they apply other tools to analyze them. Because if the data doesn't answer the questions, then it's not good to invest in there. And also there are really big concerns about data governance, privacy. We know HIPAA and all this, who owns the data, how we can access that, how we de-identify data, who has privileges. There are a lot of questions about that. Then when we want to build tools for electronic health data management, there are a lot of hurdles that prevent the uptake of that, like logins, training, different tools. Then those are barriers actually to the utilization of the data. Then however today, then many of the new developed electronic health record interactive tools have not capitalized in the user-centered design methods. And we have discussed that previously in other scenarios, and they have been focused on the production in the profitability or in the performance of the tool or in the data collection itself, but they are not thinking really in the user. They have been often designed by development-based assumptions about the user needs and not involving the users, and do not leverage design methodologies that have become common in the technology industry, like user-centered design. What happened with this? This has created a gap in designing, limiting of utility, usability, and uptake of the tools. Because then what is the need here? Then researchers, those that use secondary, this data as secondary sources or secondary applications, need tools to acquire knowledge about that data. Because if they don't know the quality of the data, the utilization is going to be low. Then what is this data profiling? Then data profiling is be able to share information about the depth and the breadth of a given data set. What is the complexity? What is there? What is the characteristic of this data set? In order that users can approach that data set in a more efficient and meaningful use, and if they have time, because sometimes it takes a lot of time to do that profiling, then fulfill the critical needs of researchers that's seeking the use of that electronic health data for research. And a lot of time and investment is put into the profiling. And if you have had experience then searching or digging for data and trying to clean it, and is this the proper data for the question? Is this the source? And it's complicated sometimes. Then then they decide to apply participatory design in order to build a tool that help the researchers build a data profiling application. Then the way that they did this is they used participatory design in 3 participatory meetings. They have 3 organizations that were collaborating in the project, and they call these workshops innovation and collaboration workshops. They have between 10 and 14 health research experts or electronic health data users in every single innovation collaboration workshop. And they have different expertises. They have expertise in biomedical research or data scientists or biostatisticians or biomedical informaticians. There were a variety of expertise. And each workshop was designed to last between 1.5 to 2 hours. And they divided those workshops in 3 sections that we're going to be looking. Then this is the model of the innovation and collaboration workshop model. They have half an hour or 45 minutes where they learn about the goal to design the electronic health record driven data profiling tool. What is data profiling? What do we need? And to extract information also from the participants. Then in the second portion, the second section, lasting also 30 to 45 minutes, then they form groups of 3 to 5 members and they collaborate and innovate. They created all these brainstormings with 2 open-ended questions in order to collect ideas that helps to inform a useful, attractive, and creative data profiling tool. The questions were, what would be useful, attractive, creative way for the tool to increase the user's confidence in data integrity, or in this case, users view? How could the tool help the users find out whether or not the data have what the users are looking for? Then what do you do to qualify data? What needs to be there? Then they reconvene again. The participants' teams presented their ideas, the solutions, and the concerns in that session. And then it was videotaped. And then researchers conducted a content analysis and characterized and clustered similar recommendations and categorized those recommendations under objectives and properties, and infer implications from recommendations for the content. Then the results at the end, they have 36 attendees. They worked in 12 teams and made a total of 44 recommendations. They were able to identify 3 overarching objectives of the data profiling tool, and the recommendations of the teams were classified in features of characteristics. Features are recommendations pointing to functions that the team suggested that needs to be built into the tool, and characteristics were recommendations that refer to design attributes. It could be for the tool or regarding the individuals. And this is the map of the objectives, the features, and the characteristics, and how they interact one with each other. But let's go and explore them and start with informed uses of data utility. Then this is the first objective, that's informed uses of data utility. Then the teams recommended that data profiling tool should inform use about, hey, how useful is this data for you? And the first requirement was fitness for use. Then definitely a data profiling tool should inform biomedical researchers whether or not the electronic health data profile meets their needs. And how to achieve that, that's where the challenge is, how we can make it. Then first, we need to be able to explain why are the data useful for me. Questions to consider: why do I want to a cohort from your data? What are your data offering that I cannot easily get elsewhere? Are patients in your data set accessible for my clinical trial? And answering these questions can differ across different researchers. To answer the overarching why questions, what are the data useful for me? There could be different means and formats that can be utilized for answering these questions. It could be a simple text description. We can use graphics. We can use tutorials. There could be a lot of ways of representing this. Then the recommendation based on this is that they want to have a feature that can provide information in steps, then that enables the users to filter through and reduce the information to only what is needed. And these features can be combined with data dictionaries or used to visually demonstrate the data to the users. Then, for example, users can click on patients and they can zoom in, or they can find about what type of information are available or about those patients, and users can learn about demographics, lab results, what diagnostics are available for those patients, and have a brief description, and then that's going to help them navigate better. The second element that was derived from that objective was clarify limitation. Basically, this is an important characteristic of the data profiling tool. They need to communicate clearly to the users what the data cannot do for you. And then it needs to demonstrate both what purposes of the data fit well and what purpose of the data do not fit well. That's really important. Third thing, data provenance. It's really important for them to know where the data is coming from and how the data was created, how the data has been curated, how the data has been manipulated in order to be trustworthy. Then this is a feature that they want to be represented like a visual way to illustrate the data provenance. And you can have like a lineage, or you can have logos or seals or things like that that represent. Success stories. Then provide user with examples of how the data has been used successfully in the past. What kind of results are out there? And who is using that data currently? And they seems to see this like an important characteristic. And the future was proposed to include demonstration of success stories within the tool to improve inform the use of the data tool. And basically creating user stories attached to the data set. And now you can start imagine how this is going to work. Then we have a title, we have a descriptors or tags about variables or type of data. We can go there and have a sample of the data set. We can navigate a little bit about to the data set. We can say, hey, this is no you cannot use this for these purposes because this limitation, and this is the people that is using this so far. Now they want to visualize the data quality. And data quality can be measured in multiple dimensions. Then they want to know more about the data and what could be the potential issues that they can encounter when they're using it. For example, consistency, variability. And then it needs to have a mechanism that allows you to leave reviews on data quality. Then you can have like this evaluation that we can have for services, but instead of evaluating service, we can be evaluating data sets. A data dictionary then enhances the data profiling tool to inform about the utility of the data, and that helps them to explore the data. Now let's go to the objective 2, that now is not just the inform the users about the data utility, but now the second objective is how enable the users to explore the data. We already introduced a little bit of that because in those recommendations, features, and characteristics that we identify in objective 1 are overlapping in some way, and as we saw in the graphic as well, with this need. Then definitely they need the data profiling tool needs to enable researchers to explore depth and breadth of that data easily. Then, because there are efficiency and privacy reasons, exploring data in this context is not equivalent to letting the users query the data completely. This is more like a proxy of showing you the complexity of the data. You can have other representations, but it will allow the researchers to explore different dimensions of data. And for example, you can have a representation of data points where you have missing data. You can have timelines or depending of the data set, there are different representations that you can think of how to represent that that data in a visual way. Then they want to visualize the data characteristics, and this was the most highly recommended characteristic of the data profiling tool, to highlight the data characteristics. 5 out of the 12 teams suggested visualization of various aspects of the data, and then depth, the ranges, for example, breadth, inclusivity, and you name it. Then they propose various forms of visualization, including charts, maps. What they want is the users can learn easily about the data, visualize the populations. They think about interactive visual demos, and that they are able to convey information to the users. The second element in the objective 2 was allow them to compare cohort population and and to learn about the data better. Then is to understand how the cohort that they are interested in compare with general population, and what does it mean. Then, for example, if this patient cohort has 70% male, but in real population we have 48%, then is this something that really is suitable for my purpose? Because it's not representative of the general population. But maybe the research that I'm doing is just based on females, and even that 30% of female is going to be really important for solving my problem. And the authors call this the Amazon Netflix effect, and this is something that we are experiencing, and it's expected sometimes now in other domains. And this is a feature that increases the ability to explore data. And what is the Amazon Netflix effect? It's when you are searching, you don't need to search actually in Amazon or Netflix, because you have been recommended, and they have this feature, both Amazon and Netflix, to recommend you, hey, you should, we may think that you may like this movie or this series, I think you may like this product, no? And that's the Amazon Netflix effect. And of course, this is also used in marketing and other domains as well, but this is about content directly about your behavior. Then this is something that was discussed by them and suggests similar search topics that they may be interested based on the data collected from doing similar searches or similar uses. Geography. They were that they want to be able to search by geography and enable users to use spatial dimensions in the data exploration. Then, can I have a population that is within this geographical constraint, and be able to visualize in maps or showcasing the patient populations across geography, something that was highlighted for some of the teams. Exploratory analysis is the fifth feature in this data visualization or data exploration, and is to be able to have hypothesis generating analysis and to have information about variables that be correlated with the selected variable, and then have already some some tools that allow you to facilitate that correlation. And it could be a simple or complex text mining feature that allow users to learn more about the data with more flexibility. And now the third objective is about about be able to orient the researchers. Then they want that, in addition to the data has to offer to the users, then they think the data profiling tool needs to be able to clearly orient users to what features the tool has to offer. What you can use. Yes, it's like inducing demand on the utilization of the tool. Then in this regards, they suggested to have a visual query builder. Then the feature is an ability to build data queries that could be enhanced via visual interfaces. Visual querying is when you have blocks that represent knowledge and you just link them in some way, and then you are able to connect data and build the relationships in that way without need to know SQL or complex querying languages. Then, for example, that visual query builder need to demonstrate how cohort population will change by adding new inclusion or exclusion criteria. And then you can see visually how big and how small it is and allow that kind of exploration. The second element in the third aim was visualize the process, and then there were visual tutorials about the data profiling itself. Then how to navigate, how to use, what are the, how to learn this, basic, because not everybody is going to be able to teach you how to use the tool, but having tutorials, having a navigator and a structure just in time is something that could be really, really important. And it includes traditional instructional videos, and basically interactivity has to be one prominent characteristic of the visualization in order to engage the users. To have interactive examples, the interactivity was one of the most recommended characteristics of the data profiling tool. And the interactive examples could be built in a combination of storytelling and data visualization. And that's going to help the users to engage. The smart guide is the fourth element, and then they say that the tool use a survey mechanism at the beginning of the process and at the exit point. Okay, that basically to understand about the user needs and guide the users through the tools feature. Because if you don't need geography, then maybe I'm not going to be offering you that. But you are intensive in that relationship. Okay, do you want to work in, I don't know, billing data, or you want to work in genetics data? What kind of data is the one that you are looking for? And I'm going to help you to filter and guide you through the process and where to find it. And information could also be used by development team to improve the tool and add new features. In this way, it's going to be that retroalimentation or that feedback, no retroalimentation, that's an Spanglish word here, a feedback with the real final users. Because remember that at the beginning they only have 36 representative users, but the end users could be different and they can discover new features and they can improve the tool. At the end, when they rank all these needs, features, and characteristics, 50% they wanted to be really visual, 39% to be clear, 27 to be usable, 23 interactive, and 14 smart. Then that's how they rank the properties for the data profiling tool that they identify. Then the conclusion of the authors using this approach is that a participatory design approach to color recommendations from data profiling tool can improve the tool by itself. The ideal data profiling tool can be described as, and if you notice, visual, clear, usable, interactive, and smart. They are just taking that hierarchy and providing that in their conclusion that is designed to inform clinical researchers of data utility and let them explore the data while orienting the users. Utility is the first goal, the first objective, exploration and orienting. The three main aims that they find there. Then you see how this conclusion is driven from that data and that information. And user testing will further strengthen the tool design by ensuring that features of characteristics of the tool created a satisfactory experience for the users. And this is just based on the participatory design theory that, of course, we tie it back. Then this is the case study that I have for you today. I just wanted to represent a way how it can be implemented. It doesn't need to go directly to build something right away, but it's a really, really interesting tool. Thank you for your attention. Take care and be sure to do your homework.